that just about does it. Knockout of the year. I said, I may have very well just watched the knockout of the year 2025. Brian Norman traveled to Japan. I came, I saw, I conquered. Vicious knockout. I repeat, vicious knockout that I just witnessed. In this video, I'm going to break it down and let you know what I seen. Crazy performance, crazy outcome. And Brian Norman versus Jin Sasaki. What really happened? Now, it's early as heck for me, man. It's like 5 in the morning, right? So very early, but I wanted to see this fight. Brian Norman, up and comer, he seemed like a down to earth dude, and top ranked ESPN. Shout out to them. They had this early morning show, so I definitely wanted to see it. The welterweight picture has been very kind of stale, so I wanted to see what Brian Norman was cooking up, and boy, did he do just that. The cook up was nasty. So I'm gonna let you know what really happened in this particular video. Now, this was a great performance by Brian Norman. Listen, he won every round to me. I thought he controlled most of the rounds, but somehow, some way, it was still a fun fight. And boxing is like that. Sometimes you have these fights where there's clearly a person winning, but the effort is definitely there on behalf of the foe and the opponent. So yet and still, even though it was clear that Brian Norman was winning every round, you still wanted to watch it and see what was happening and stay tuned, because the way this dude was fighting was crazy. And I'm going to break that down right now. Round 1, opening round, you have Brian Norman, power unleashed, and he hit Jin Sasaki with some very hard shots that end up dropping him. He got dropped 2 times in the opening stanza in the very first round. Dropped nasty. And it was looking like this was just going to be a showcase fight, right? Where you just have some guy who happened to be ranked, and this ranked guy, showed up and wasn't ready. But I got to give a lot of props to Jin Sasaki, because he got back up, and when I tell you this, you got to believe it, because I'm letting you know what really happened. This man fought like he was possessed, like he was almost on something, and he was recovering like Wolverine. Hey, bub. Berserker barrage. Drill power. Bro, he was the Japanese Logan. You gotta believe me. He was getting melted, leaned, hit with some very hellacious, murderous punches from Brian Norman. And I know that the eye test and it's not a bodybuilding contest and pause. I get all that. But Brian Norman, his record shows he has power. And if you look at his physique, it just goes, even though there's people who have power that don't have, they're not brolic. But he has that aesthetic where he looked brolic in the way he's throwing, the technique, and the level of training you could tell he did for his fight. Yeah, I was like, how is this dude even surviving, and how did he pick himself back up? So prayers go out to Jin Sasaki. He was definitely game. He wasn't winning by any stretch, but it got to a point where the way he was walking through shots, I'm like, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either one, fighting like this, you're going to pay and you're going to get knocked out brutally, or you're going to go out on your shield basically, or option B is, what if you continue to eat shots and Brian Norman gets tired from punching you. And also, on top of being tired, it is very discouraging when a person is walking through all your shots and you're a noted puncher. Like if you're feather fisted, it don't really matter. You're used to not being able to hurt guys. But very discouraging for a power puncher, and you got a guy who's tough, and like, not only was he tough, he was getting back up, and he was trying to push the pace and like really dump on Brian Norman. In the beginning of round 3, he landed a very nice, I want to say a left on Brian Norman, But Brian Norman stole the play away and then immediately hurt Jin Sasaki right after that, and he just wouldn't let up. So round 3 was another crazy round. Round 3, it was like he was in there with the Japanese Terminator. I mean, it didn't look healthy the way he was just eating them shots, but he showed resilience, and he was even like on some come on when he was getting hit. It was crazy. It was like he was so amped up. So unfortunately, that style don't really have much of a shelf life in the grand scheme of it. It is boxing. You can't just walk through everybody's shots. And that proved to be the case here. Congratulations to Brian Norman. He put him out. And when I say put him out, knockout of the year, put him out. He fell. It was like almost like a lunging, leaping hook. He like bent down, got the proper torque on it, and it was a crazy knockout. I'm talking about it took 5 to 8 minutes, it felt like, to check to see if the dude was alive. Was he going to get back up? Was he asleep still? And it was a scary moment. You know, we know how that when Pacquiao gets knocked out, face plants, you know, those moments are very tense. And Brian Norman, you know, he kind of took a bow, shook everybody's hand, very respectful. And, you know, people just prayed and hoped that Jin Sasaki was okay. But I seen it coming a mile away because the dude, he was tough. Japanese fighters and Japan produces a lot of very tough fights and fighters. I remember watching Brandon Figueroa, or actually it was his older brother, Omar Figueroa. He fought a Japanese fighter, Arakawa, and he was just dummy tough. I remember Robert Guerrero fought Kamagai, dummy tough, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these Japanese fighters, they're built different. I don't know what type of training regimen they got going on or, you know, what's going on in camp. But this dude, it wasn't that he, like I said, it wasn't that he was winning. He definitely wasn't winning at all at any point. But he was like gunslinging and in the pocket and fighting a very dangerous fight until he wasn't. So Brian Norman, he definitely impressed. All this commotion recently in boxing about Turkey making a smaller ring, 18 by 18, and runners, and the fights with the low punch output that we seen on them Turkey cards with Canelo and Skull, with Devin Haney and Jose Ramirez, Ryan and Rolly. You didn't have to worry about none of that here. There was no running, hiding. It was just all out warfare. So I was not surprised, but happy to see Brian Norman's composure, being in another country, throwing all them shots. He clearly is well cardioed. So that was great to see for a young fighter. He's definitely maturing as a champion. That Santillan performance, I think, upped his game and took him to another level, and it's just carried on. Now, I got 2 subjects that I gotta talk about. You didn't think I would do this video, what really happened, and not bring this up. 2 subjects. 1, Devin Haney. 2, Jerron Boots Ennis. Let's get it. 1, Devin Haney. I already made a video about it. Devin Haney reportedly in Japan scouting Brian Norman. My thoughts, please fight Brian Norman. Great fight. You need an opponent. You couldn't get Teofimo. The Ryan fight fell apart because he obviously wasn't available, injured, coming off a loss. So Bill Haney and Devin in the Haneyacks, they said that Brian Norman is no good. And see, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to real boxing content. The Haneyacks content creators, they're so obsessed with one fighter, Devin Haney, that they're not even talking real boxing. They just kind of go with whatever the status quo is for Team Haney, right? Like Devin Haney the other day said Brian Norman is So look at that statement saying that he's trash and he's and he's horrible, and he just produced knockout of the year against a game opponent. Meanwhile, Devin fought a dead man in Jose Ramirez and looked very hesitant to engage. So make the fight. That's all I'm going to say is make the fight. You needed a dance partner. He's coming off a great performance. You're off of a win. Make the fight. This is why these content creators, they want to be like your boy Ego, but you got to talk boxing and talk that real. So you look dumb. All the people who saying that that he was trash and Devin would school him up. Show me that, because Brian Norman, I'm liking what I'm seeing in the development of his career. Finally, Jaron Boots Ennis, another hot topic. Boots just announced the day before Brian Norman had this performance that he's moving up to 154. I continue to be the greatest asset in the game of boxing, the best in the business, and it's not even close. If you listen to all my content talking about Boots moving up to 154 pounds, I'm like, what is he doing? Bad timing. Why, since Brian Norman was so close to the date, you know, why would you move up without seeing how he looks like and what he's looking like in the fight? It just don't make sense to me. You know, when you could just wait one day and then try to negotiate with him if he won. And I said that in my video. I'm like, it don't make sense to move up when you really truly could see how how it plays out. And that's the big fight, or was the big fight, at 147. 147, that would have been amazing. And Boots' team is like, we whooped him in sparring and stuff like that. He looks like he's developing though. So I don't care about sparring. I want to see what happens. Boots is a great fighter. Brian Norman is an up and coming great fighter so far from what we're seeing. And he's producing performances back to back where his power is definitely real. And you could say he gets hit some, but so does Jaron Ennis, you know, and that kind of comes with territory the more aggressive you are being. But so far, so good in terms of actually achieving victory. And this kid got a knockout of the year. So I definitely believe what I said to you guys before. Jaron Ennis and team, their decision to move up when Norman, yay or nay, was he going to win or lose? You could have just waited and then try to get that, because then Boots would be one belt away from undisputed. You know what I mean? And then at that point, if you're like, hey, I can't make 147 anymore. So I think Boots definitely believed deep down what Boxingego also told that he denied, which is he was struggling to make that weight. And he realized the sooner he leaves, the better, because if he doesn't, he could have a performance that he's not proud of because he's not entering the ring as healthy as possible because he's taking off too much weight too rapidly. And that's definitely not good. It's not good. So very disappointing, because again, Jaron Boots Ennis versus Brian Norman, that would be, to me, for a boxing fight, I feel like that's a blockbuster fight. I like that better than Canelo and Crawford. Yeah, Canelo Crawford is going to get promoted different, but to me, I think for your money's worth and what that fight would deliver, that's a banger. But now we have to wait until, you know, Brian Norman, he ain't said nothing about moving up to 54. He's in shape. He made the weight. So I don't know if he wants to move up to 154 anytime soon. This is what boxing continues to do, and it's very disappointing. So I don't know what's next for Brian Norman. Congratulations. I think a Devin Haney fight is right there. That'd be a great look. But we got to see him fight a bigger name. He looks like he's ready for it, right? He definitely looks like he's ready for it. So very unfortunate that Boots made the decision. And I told you, Boots got with Eddie Hearn, and he's like, yeah, this is a dream team and stuff like that. But the way the decisions have played out is kind of a bit weird to me. And that's just being 100% real with you. A bit weird. You could have just waited to see how Brian Norman was going to do and then moved up. You know what I mean? And then that's why I tell you, there's a lot of content creators that put out low quality content. There were people who were saying, oh, Brian Norman's a duck. He ducked Jaron Boots Ennis. But I certainly believe that this type of star-making performance with a knockout of the year packaged with it, now some of those people are going to do what same casuals do, the same thing that they always do, which is jump ship. Now the people who are saying Brian Norman is ducking, they're going to look at what I'm saying and, you know, change their tune, and they're going to ease up on those comments. That's why I don't like to not know the facts and just put the duck label on people, right? There's a business to it. Brian Norman and his dad, they were like, Eddie Hearn, you know, he's trying to get us to consent and promise to fight Jaron Boots Ennis, and we have somebody in front of us. Let us take care of that. And you guys were calling them a duck for that. Oh, he ducked. This is a duck. This is the second time he ducked. That's not a duck. And I tried to tell y'all that. How is it a duck if the business is messy and sloppy? You have a task in front of you. Get through that. Because if Jin Sasaki, who looked like he had a crazy battery in his back, if he was a bit better and he upset Brian Norman, then you don't get the next fight. So you wait. But now we waited, and now he's free. Boots is in a new division. And that's what really happened.